And down here, the bottom right-hand corner of Ohana, we have our red Protoss player from FXO. It is Tyr, and his opponent here in the top left-hand corner, one of the more dominant Zerg players that's out there at the moment. If you're a young player, bright career ahead of him, StarTale's life.
All right, guys. So, as we kick things off here, big shout out to Team Dignitas for taking the Shoot Mania championship. By the way,
yes,
hard earned, and I think maybe a little unexpected it was going to be broadcast already, but I'm sure they're pretty happy that they can make known their victory. So here we are now with FXO versus StarTale. And I was saying it earlier, man. I think FXO is going to make a really good run here. If I have to make a prediction, I mean, I'm giving it to StarTale, but by a narrow margin. And if FXO wins it, I mean, I couldn't vote for them, but I don't think it would be too surprising. They just, wow. JKS, Lucky, and Whale giving great showings, of course, against Team Prime. FXO recently defeating them to kick off the season 5-2, and they are now pitted here, starting off with Tyr, in fact.
Right.
They did run an all-Zerg composition in their first match, so...
And like
CVP on Ohana, man.
Yes, and like we said before, guys, for those of you who may just be tuning in right now, and I'm attempting to try and get us an event on Team Liquid at the same time, but...
Kevin, you're way too good at multitasking for a man.
I'm attempting to do it, but we'll see how well I can do.
The Galaxy Note 2, it's kind of a phablet.
Yes.
So, I don't know I could do that on a little phone, man.
It's a nice phone, though. I like it. Anyway, so this matchup was supposed to be Caronte versus MVP, but it is being switched over to FXO versus StarTale. Now, of course, Live has to watch out for a couple of very specific all-ins on this map. We have seen Parting, actually, recently in this Team League decide not to Immortal Sentry all-in, but play a little more protracted, longer style of gameplay, and that can work here if you catch your opponent off guard, or you get them worrying about a big all-in play for a good period of time. But that all-in is what, Life's going to have to watch out for. Immortal Sentry is so powerful here.
Yeah, it's not the hardest thing to scout for on this map. It's more just the potency of the build itself that makes it so scary. It's not the easiest map to scout on, granted. There's not a ton of room behind the natural expansion, but enough. You can hide your Overlord, you can poke it in, and at the same time you can come in from the top right where you can also station an Overlord. So Life should be able to scout if anything like that does happen to come his way. Now Lings are going to be heading over to the third with his drone, allowing him to grab that. Note, he has only produced one queen so far, so this is one of the relatively fast third bases. We see all different variations of this still in all honesty.
Oh, of course. This is kind of a cool placement for the Photon Cannon too. Usually you'll see it tucked up here around the side, but of course he wants it to start knocking down those destructible rocks very quickly. So the placement of this cannon alone is possibly a tell as to what Tyr wants to do going forward.
That's a really interesting point to make, Kevin. Lings are going to be arriving here, and the probe will make it home safely. Going to throw down a cybernetics core. He couldn't have been better timed. And Tyr from here, he's really just going to be looking at his options. He knows that Life at least appears in the beginning to be playing standard here, and I do love seeing a player send out a second probe behind this. We'll see if Tyr tries to pull any such maneuver. Remember, the Zerglings still are stationed at the bottom of his ramp.
Oh, yeah, and let's take a look at what both players have seen. He hasn't confirmed the third base quite yet. Even though he can assume it's there are still crafty all-ins that a Zerg player can do off of two bases here. So, usually involving roaches and lings. But, so we'll see if Tyr wants to try and get an explicit look at that, or if he's just going to rely on the fact that his opponent is definitely going for a third base.
We do see the Zealot on the field. He'll be heading out, denying the Xel'Naga Tower, and then should immediately start marching it across the map. And if he sees anything like speed, roaches, of course, if he were going for them, would be hidden, but he won't be seeing anything like that. But that's what he's looking for right now as he sends this Zealot out. And it will be arriving momentarily. A Stalker following this up, and a gas that's actually timed appropriately for an Immortal Sentry all-in, Kevin. We might see a Robo dropped here in just a second.
Yeah, he's got that 100 gas. He's got the almost 150 minerals here in just a bit. Overlord is taking a bit of damage, and he wants to drive this away for a specific purpose. He's going to hide some sort of tech. And this is Twilight Council. It's actually popping up behind the main minerals.
Yeah, very fast fourth gas, in fact, from Tyr here. It could be some sort of Dark Templar play because the +1 is too late to be going for some sort of Blink Stalker play. So really interested to see what Tyr's going to be going for with this Twilight Council.
It'll be interesting.
And it could still be a Twilight Robo expand build. It could be something very standard.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the DT expand is definitely a possibility here.
Yeah, I mean, but you mentioned the Twilight Council not lining up with any sort of +2 or anything along those lines. That +1 weapons was actually started very late in the game. And so we'll see. There it is. Dark Templar, Dark Shrine now popping up. That does take 100 seconds to build, so it's going to be a while before that is any sort of a threat. But if Life doesn't have any sort of detection ready for this, this could do some massive damage.
Yeah, this is really cool because we don't see players going for this build very often anymore. It was popular back when maps like Zelnaga Caverns were in the map pool, but it's not something that is super common nowadays. So Life could be caught entirely off guard by this. Now he is going to, of course, be getting his lair attack and Evo Chamber. This is not a build designed to hit before Life has any form of detection. But if you go for a lot of stalkers behind this, as he's going for the Robotech, it really just buys you time to tech up because it makes it tough for the Zerg to push out. They're reliant on units like Overseers, and and of course you can get that economic damage in.
And this couple of things were just shown by that Zergling there. He confirms that there's no +1 weapons done yet, but he also confirms there's a probe running around on the map trying to put down some sort of a forward pylon. It's finally going to hit over here on the left-hand side. The Zealot is going to bite the dust, and it's out of the range of the Zelnaga Tower.
That was such a great point. Seeing that Tyr is moving out at this time with a probe to build a pylon with no +1 attack is actually a huge tell for Dark Templar or Stargate play, and so Life immediately drops 2 Spore Crawlers in response to this, because he does see that information and he reads it perfectly.
Okay, well, the probe dies. He's going to have to send out another one if he wants to try and put down a third base, but our first 2 Dark Templar are making their way in. There's a Spore Crawler coming up at the front, and it's just going to finish up just after the DT sneak on through, but the reveal, the Queen is attacking, and this DT is not long for this world. He is just going to pick off a couple more drones. The one inside of the main could do some more damage, though.
Yep.
There's an Overseer that's morphing in at the moment, but it's not done yet, and this is actually going to rack up some kills, so it's a lot of resources to put up a Dark Shrine, 250 gas, 100 minerals, then 125 for each one. So we had about 1,000 mineral investment from our about 850 minerals resources, I should say, from our Protoss player, and we'll see if the damage was worth it. He ended up killing 8 workers.
Well, ultimately, if he continues pumping out units like Immortals and works his way to Colossi and keeps teching, this will be a good thing for Tyr because the Dark Templar, it's a little lighter on the gas than if you're going to go for some sort of Archon comp that is based off High Templar. So he can stay on 3 bases for quite a while here and still actually have a very versatile tech route. But here's the thing, he's got a lot of links coming across the map right now, and he doesn't have any Archons. He's actually only got really Immortals and Sentries, and his Sentries are out of position to deal with this right now. Oh, in fact, it looked like he had a pylon block off, and that is just so nice here for Tyr. Beautiful read.
Wow.
And he's going to take no damage from this Ling run by.
That's impressive. And these Sentries have actually stayed alive for a while, too, so he doesn't take any damage from the run by. He actually joins up with a second Immortal into the mix. It looks like this one is trying to be shot down. I don't know if he's lost a unit amongst all of this. That was spectacular.
Well, one Sentry did go down, but that Immortal actually could have been in quite a bit of danger. Tyr made a wall off with his warping and stalkers so that the Roaches could not pursue the Immortal as it fell back. Beautiful. Everything there was so sexy out of Tyr, and I can't emphasize enough how much I loved that pylon wall off.
Yeah, that was really cool. The force fields were great behind it. Pretty much everything hitting in the favor of Tyr there. That does force more units out of Life as a result. A lot more Zerglings, only a few Infestors actually hitting the map right away. Usually you'd want a couple more than that, as Life does certainly have the gas for it. He's investing into his upgrades too, but now Tyr is in a spectacular position. He's taken no damage. He's been able to tech however he wants, and looks like these Roaches are just going to gun it for +2 weapons. They will be able to get it, but not before a lot of Zerg units go down.
Yeah, Tyr didn't quite get enough to make that an even trade or anything, especially with how close that upgrade was to completing. But he got a couple of units for it, and, well, that's as much as you can ask for. So now in this position, he, of course, is going to need to be remaking that Forge, assuming, yeah, okay, there. He's actually going to drop down 2, and is working his way now to Colossus as he has completed that bay, Kev.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about the robotics bay, or even the double forges at this stage. Yeah. It's really nice to make sure that you're not going to fall behind in any respect in this game. And Tyr's pretty much ahead across the board. He had the tech advantage, he had the army advantage, he had the economy advantage. So if you lose the upgrade advantage, that's something that's easily prevented given Tyr's position in this game. So he's just really just staying diligent everywhere on the map.
Now Tyr is going to be going for that quick 4th base. If he can secure that, he's going to be able to he'll be able to immediately incorporate Archons into this composition, which will make his army that much scarier. But Life here going for quite a number of upgrades.
Now, Life actually forced out, or I should say Tier forced out of Life 3 fungal growths to kill 1 Dark Templar. So these infestors are actually dead weight. You want them to be able to pin units down at the same time that they are throwing out their infested Terrans and such, but they just don't have the ability to do so. Now we have Splash involved in this army too for Tier. Just the 1 Colossus for the time being. An extended Thermal Lance is not quite done, but doesn't look like there's any sort of an attack imminent from Life.
I was very surprised. It looks like Tier actually, okay, so this makes a little bit of sense. Tier really could have protected that 4th base because, as you said, all those fungal growths were wasted, and that made it that, you know, Tier actually, as long as he's playing defensive, could definitely engage against Life's army. But his 3rd is actually set up as like a one-time pass. Once you're out, you're pretty much out. You're not going back in there because the gap is so incredibly small, and that will make Spire play, which actually Life is going for right now. This could be incredibly powerful because Tier doesn't have the ability to move units in and out of his base. His natural expansion is entirely closed off, and his 3rd has a Zealot-wide gap.
Nice job here from Tier to move up with an Observer and pick off a couple of creep tumors. He's doing a nice job of actually making sure that this is going to recede. Blinks out of there, not going to take the loss of any units whatsoever, so free damage done, all the while he's securing a 4th base behind this. Now, no Stargate play, no Fleet Beacon coming up yet. Looks like the armies are just moving back on creep off to the right here. If Life sets up for a big engagement, though, this could be very deadly.
That concave is looking really scary. I mean, you can't push through into that.
I love the inclusion of 4 DTs here, because if they're not explicitly scouted, especially because the Overseer just died and the DTs can now start to move in and do some work as long as fungal growths don't hit them, that's a ton of added DPS into Tier's army.
Yeah, that was really cute how Tier kind of came over from the left with those Blink Stalkers, sniped that Overseer, and then blinked over the wall to rejoin with his army. I mean, Tier is playing so impressive right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he takes this game, Kevin. I mean, he's on point.
All right, well, he's going to move into the right-hand side. No Overseers over here either. The fungal growths are hitting a bunch of units up at the front. The Dark Templar have actually been injured just a bit, but now they're able to run free once again. They can start to engage directly on the infestors if they so desire. Nothing has really touched these Colossi at the back yet. They've been able to just rock through the infested Terrans, and everything is dying here for Life. Looks like he may... No, in fact, because the Corruptors were actually split up from the rest of the forces before they were able to make their way up to the front, they're having an extremely difficult time in picking off these Colossi. They may eventually get it, and they do, but it came at the cost of, what, 10, 12 Corruptors?
Yeah, and Tier is going to take out this 4th base. From here, he should pull... Oh my god, and even Zealots and Dark Templars in the main, destroying Life right now is Tier. And from here, you know what, with those units in the main, maybe continue to push here. Typically, you would fall back after this. You're on 4 bases, your opponent is not, but he is running rampant over Life's base.
Yeah, and I mean, everything's dead. I mean, what is there on the map right now for Life? He's got 7 infestors, which I think are out of energy. They're there. Yeah, pretty much out of energy. We have almost no offensive units other than that. Looks like more dropping going down, and there is a bit of a counterattack down in the bottom left-hand corner, but that gets cleaned up very easily by a couple of Zealots.
All right, so Tier at this point, he is going to go and fall back, knowing that his lead is incredibly huge. Hey, the Changelings moved right before they died. That was the most wasted APM I've ever seen. Tier, guys, at this point is incredibly far ahead, but let's take a look at where it is, Kev, because, you know, he's not that up in supply.
Well, no, I mean, he doesn't have to be at this stage of the game, though. He's producing very high-quality units, and that's all he cares about, continuing to buffer his Colossus count. Surprised that he hasn't gone up at least a little bit to the Fleet Beacon route just to be able to add on additional things, or even Archons. Archons would be a really nice addition, given that these are all pretty weak biological units on the ground right now for our Zerg player. But Life, even without any sort of Archon play, is still going to get his force decimated here. There's nothing interrupting these Colossi. They're already racking up a lot of kills. One gets exposed off here to the right. A little bit of a miscontrol, and Tier does lose that, but he's killed everything else at the same time. There's GG. StarTale Life is down.
Yep.
FXO takes game number 1. A very impressive performance from Tier.
Kevin, that's exactly how I feel. That had nothing to do with Life playing poorly and everything to do with FXO Tier playing flawlessly. If I'm team StarTale right now, do not send another Zerg out against him because he just played beyond a flawless game.
And I got a little bit of bad news just then, too. Apparently, so there was a replay situation for game number 2. The incorrect replay was sent, so we have to just jump into game number 3. We will report in game number 2, StarTale threw out Bomber. Tier defeated him. So Tier actually ended up taking 2 games in a row. So apologize for the abrupt nature of the cast, as we have been shuffling things around today because of the delay between MVP and Coronte Esports Club. But Tier did defeat Bomber. In addition to Life, goes up 2-0 for FXO. So the third player to come in for StarTale now is Parting.
Now, a PvP, I guess, did he look as flawless in Game 2 as he did in Game 1? I'm using that word so
I don't know.
Right now.
I mean, I obviously haven't seen the replay or anything.
Makes me want to play Diablo Flawless Gems, honestly. I hear the game's okay now. Maybe.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's fun.
You're still playing it?
Yeah, from time to time.
Okay. We'll have to converse a little bit, because I was absurdly into it when it first came out.
Oh, okay.
And then I was disappointed. But, wow. I mean, all right, Tier, they're bringing a Protoss out against them, guys. Perfect play in Game number 1, maybe in Game number 2 as well. I really want to see it, because that was so clean. Let's see if Parting can take him down, huh?
All right, well, we're going to run to a commercial break. We'll be right back after this.